I was about to steal my best friend's date before he even knew she existed, and I told myself it didn't count if I never meant to keep him. That's the truth I couldn't say out loud, not even at the beginning when it still felt like a joke. Marcus had shoved his phone across my kitchen table with that particular desperation he gets, the one where his eyebrows do this tragic little dance and he says help me like I'm a search and rescue team and not just someone who knows how to form complete sentences. His dating profile was a crime scene. His opening line was, "Hey there, beautiful," with no punctuation and 3 photos that looked like they'd been taken by a stranger in a parking garage, which one of them literally had been. "You're killing me," I said, scrolling. "You're actually killing me." "Did you write this in the dark?" "I wrote it in good faith," he said, wounded. "I'm a good faith kind of guy. You're a hey there, beautiful kind of guy, apparently." "Marcus, no one has said hey there, beautiful unironically since 1987. You sound like a cartoon wolf." He grabbed for the phone. I pulled it back. "Let me fix it. Just the profile. 20 minutes. You're not going to make me sound human?" "Yes. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I meant it. I absolutely meant it when I started." I rewrote his bio into something that sounded like an actual person, 40 words about being a physical therapist who coaches youth soccer on weekends and once got lost in a museum for 3 hours because he started reading every plaque. I found his 3 best photos, cropped strategically, added one of him laughing at a wedding where he actually looked like someone you'd want to talk to. I showed him. He approved. I hit save. Done. Then I saw the notification. Someone had already matched. Someone with a photo standing on a rocky coastline, wind-tousled hair, the kind of smile that made you want to know what the joke was. "Ooh," Marcus said, leaning over my shoulder. "Message her. Do the thing you do." "The thing I do?" "The thing where you make people like you." "That's called being a person, Marcus. You could try it." But I was already opening the chat, already typing something about the coastline looking like Maine and whether she, I reminded myself. This was for Marcus, for a woman had been there or just had excellent taste in stock photography. I hit send thinking that was the end of it. A nice opening, a friendly exchange. I'd hand the phone back and Marcus would take it from there. The reply came in 90 seconds. "Not stock," she wrote. "My sister's wedding. I was the only one sober enough to remember the camera." "Your museum story. Please tell me you weren't the adult chaperone." I laughed out loud. Marcus looked up from his sandwich. "What?" "Nothing. She's nothing," I typed back. "Solo adult. No children were harmed in the making of that anecdote." The security guard was deeply unamused. "Tell her about the security guard," Marcus said, mouth full. "That's a good story." "I know it's a good story. I'm telling it." I was telling it well, better than I would have told it for myself, because this wasn't me. This was Marcus's voice I was channeling, Marcus's slightly self-deprecating charm, his genuine warmth that he somehow never managed to translate to text. I found myself reaching for his rhythms, his particular way of turning a phrase. Delia, her name was Delia, responded in kind, sharp, fast. The kind of back and forth where you could feel the other person leaning in. "Is she responding?" Marcus asked. "She's responding. Is it good?" "It's fine. It's going fine." It was going better than fine. We were 40 minutes in when I realized I hadn't handed the phone back. We were an hour in when Marcus stood up to leave and I said, "Wait, just let me finish this thread." And he laughed and said, "You're really into this." And I said, "I'm really into helping you," with my face carefully arranged into best friend helpfulness. I would stop at 9, I decided. 9 o'clock, I'd send a final message, something warm but conclusive, hand the phone over tomorrow with a full briefing. 9 came. I kept typing. 10 came. I told myself I was being thorough, being a good friend, making sure Marcus had solid groundwork. At 11, she sent a voice memo. I stared at it. Marcus had never mentioned voice memos. This wasn't in the plan. I could ignore it, say goodnight, pick up tomorrow with some excuse about early meetings. Instead, I found myself pressing play, and her voice came through, low, amused, saying, "Okay, I need to know if your museum story voice is anything like your actual voice, because I've been imagining something very specific and I need to know how wrong I am." I listened 3 times. Then I texted Marcus. She sent a voice memo. "What do I do?" He texted back. "Send one back. She wants to hear your voice." "Oh, right. Can you coach me?" I called him. Coached him through 3 attempts, each one worse than the last. Too loud, too rehearsed, too obviously reading from notes I'd written. The 4th take was acceptable. I sent it. She replied in 4 minutes. "Not what I imagined. Better. You sound like someone who actually laughs at their own jokes." I felt something dangerous. Pride, maybe. Or the first edge of something more complicated. "Tell her good night," Marcus said, yawning on the phone. "This is great, Liv. You're great. Can you just keep it going? You're so much better at this than me." "Marcus, I mean it. Just until I get my bearings. Another day or two." "Another day or two," I repeated. You're the best, he said, and hung up. I looked at the phone, at the thread already pages long, at her last message still waiting for reply. I would set rules, I decided. Hard boundaries. No voice calls, that was already established. No real details about myself, obviously, since I was supposed to be Marcus. Nothing that would make this mine. I would be a ghost in the machine, a helpful friend, and in 2 days I would extract myself and Marcus would take over, and I would never think about Delia's low, amused voice again. I typed back. Better than imagined works for me, though now I'm curious what you imagined. Dangerous curiosity, that. She replied immediately. I answered immediately. The rules held until midnight, and then they held until 1, and then I stopped pretending I was keeping track. The voice memo request came on day 4. I want to hear you laugh for real, Delia wrote. Not the polite chuckle. The actual thing. The museum security guard laugh. I couldn't produce Marcus's laugh. I'd never tried. I called him in a panic, made him record himself watching fail videos until I got something natural, something that sounded like the person she'd been talking to. I spliced 3 clips together, sent the result, held my breath. That was edited, she said in her next voice memo. Cleverly edited. What are you hiding, Marcus? Bad acoustics, I typed back fast. Roommate situation. Thin walls. Liar. My heart stopped. Then I saw she'd added a laughing emoji, a follow-up. I like a man with secrets, keeps things interesting. She didn't know, she couldn't know, but I felt seen in a way that made my hand shake, and I couldn't tell if that was terror or something worse. The near miss came on day 6. She was going to be in my neighborhood, my being Marcus's, theoretically, though I'd carefully never confirmed our supposed location, on Saturday for a friend's brunch, and what if they met for coffee after? Casual, public, no pressure. I invented a family emergency. A cousin's sudden arrival from overseas, the only weekend she'd be in town, impossible to reschedule. Delia was gracious, disappointed in a way I could feel through the screen, and I spent Saturday in actual physical hiding, coffee shop 3 blocks from Marcus's apartment, just in case, feeling like a criminal and hating that I couldn't tell if the guilt was for the lie or for wanting to cancel the lie so I could go. The inside joke problem hit on day 10. We were at Marcus's place, me ostensibly helping him with laundry while I checked his phone, when she texted, "Still thinking about your penguin theory." Marcus looked up from his socks. My what? Nothing, I said too fast. Inside joke. What's the theory? That penguins are secretly organized crime. Long story, I typed back. Still holds. The tuxedos are a dead giveaway. Then, to Marcus. Remember when we talked about this? No? At the thing. The party. You were drunk. I don't get drunk. You were tipsy. You said penguins look like they were running numbers. I've never said that in my life. Well, you did. She remembers it. He looked at me strangely. I looked at my phone. The lie had developed architecture, load-bearing walls, and I was walking through rooms I'd built without remembering the doors. The jealousy beat came from nowhere. She mentioned she'd been messaging someone else, a match from before Marcus, someone who'd resurfaced with concert tickets. Thinking about saying yes, she wrote. Good seats, bad company, I typed. Do what feels right, and then deleted it. Typed. His taste in music can't be worse than his timing, and deleted that too. Finally sent. I'm not going to pretend I'm unbiased here. The seats would have to be incredible. Biased how? Invested in the outcome of our conversation, which continues to be my favorite part of any day. She didn't reply for 2 hours. I checked my phone 40 times. When she finally wrote back, the seats were merely good, declined. Tell me more about this investments. I felt a relief so sharp it was physically painful, and I had to spend 10 minutes convincing Marcus that my sudden need for air was about his apartment's ventilation, not anything important. The almost slip came on day 14. She'd sent a photo from her office, some bureaucratic disaster with a paper shredder, and I replied without thinking, this is why I work from home. Well, this and the fact that my actual office is a closet with a window the size of a postage stamp. She knew Marcus's office. She'd seen it in photos, spacious, sunny, nothing like my description. She typed, thought you loved that office? I stared at the screen. Typed, love is a strong word, tolerate with strategic blindness. Then fast, before she could reply, some days I work from the coffee shop just to remember what natural light looks like. Which coffee shop? I named one near Marcus's place. I'd never been there. She said she'd walked past it, wondered about it. We moved on. But I could feel her noticing, the way you feel someone looking at you from across a room, and I knew with certainty that she didn't know what she'd noticed yet. Only that something was wrong with the picture. The escalating ask came on day 17. She wanted a phone call. Real-time, voices, no editing possible. She wanted to hear me, Marcus, think out loud. She wanted, she said, to know if the person in the text was the person in the photos was the person she was starting to really want to meet. I can't, I told Marcus when he asked why I looked like I was going to be sick. Can't what? Keep doing this. She wants to talk. Actually talk. You need to take over. She doesn't want to talk to me. She wants to talk to, the guy in the messages. The guy in the messages is you. The guy in the messages is you, pretending to be me, and we both know which one of us she's actually responding to. He said it without bitterness, just observation, and I felt the ground shift. Liv, what do you want me to do here? I stopped. I didn't know what I wanted. I wanted to have never started. I wanted to have started as myself. I wanted Delia to know my name, my voice, my actual laugh, and I wanted to never have to explain why she didn't already. I'll figure something out, I said. I told her I was traveling for work, bad reception. Could we try next week? She said, of course. Take your time. And I heard the distance she put in those words, the careful kindness of someone preparing to disengage. I spent 3 days writing and deleting explanations, confessions, desperate Hail Marys that would have made everything worse. On the 4th day, she sent a photo of her own sunset from her apartment, no message, just the image. I replied with sunrise from my actual window, my actual neighborhood, nothing Marcus about it at all. She didn't ask whose window it was. She said, "You're not who you say you are." Not a question. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. "Neither are you," I typed back, not knowing what I meant, sending it anyway. "Fair," she replied. "But I'm not pretending to be someone else. I'm just not showing everything yet." "You're pretending." "I know. Why?" I couldn't answer. I put the phone down, went for a walk, came back to find she'd sent another message. "I'm not angry, I'm curious. There's a difference. Tell me when you're ready to actually talk." I wasn't ready. I was never going to be ready. But I found myself typing my real name, my real number, an invitation to call that night that I would answer as myself finally, whatever happened after. She called at 8. I answered with, "This isn't Marcus," and she said, "I know," and we talked for 4 hours, nothing about how we'd arrived here, just her work, my work, her sister's wedding that I'd already heard about, my actual museum story with my actual voice. And when I finally laughed for real, she said, "There it is," with such satisfaction that I felt known in a way that made my chest ache. We didn't talk about Marcus. We didn't talk about what came next. When we finally hung up, I had 17 missed texts from him asking how the handoff had gone. Marcus. He knew before she told him. He'd known for days, maybe longer. Known that the person responding to his messages wasn't him. Known that something had shifted in a way he couldn't name. He'd told himself it was his imagination, his insecurity, his well-documented tendency to sabotage good things before they started. The confirmation came from her face. They were getting coffee, finally the in-person meeting he'd been pushing for, and he watched her search his features for recognition, find none, recover with professional politeness. She'd thought she was meeting someone else. The realization settled in his stomach like a stone he'd been carrying all along. "You're not the person I've been talking to," she said, not angry, which somehow made it worse. "No," he said. "But I think I know who is." He thought of Liv's face that week, the careful avoidance, the way she'd stopped asking how things were going just when they'd started going well. He thought of her sudden expertise in his own life, her willingness to help that had always been slightly too intense, too invested. He thought of how he'd let her, because it was easier, because he wanted to be the kind of person who inspired that kind of effort. "I need to talk to my friend," he said, "before this goes any further. I think there's been a misunderstanding, a well-intentioned one, but I need to sort it out." "Your friend," Delia repeated. "The one who's been pretending to be you." "Yes. And you didn't know?" "I didn't." He stopped. He'd known something. He'd chosen not to know the specifics, chosen to let Liv carry the weight of whatever was happening, chosen to be surprised when the surprise suited him. "I need to sort it out," he said again, weaker now. Delia looked at him with something that wasn't quite pity. "Sort it carefully," she said. "I'm not interested in being anyone's collateral damage, but I'm also not interested in punishing someone for being brave enough to finally tell the truth." She left her coffee untouched. He sat in the shop for an hour, trying to find anger and finding mostly exhaustion, the particular fatigue of realizing you'd been complicit in your own confusion. Marcus found me at my apartment. He didn't knock, he had a key, emergency purposes, and he used it with a deliberateness that told me he was making a point about access, about boundaries I'd crossed without permission. "Delia," he said, 4 hours on the phone last night, you and Delia, I was going to tell you. When? I don't know, every day I thought, this is the day I'll stop, and then I didn't. And then it seemed like the only honest thing was to keep going, which makes no sense. I know it makes no sense. You fell for her, not a question. While pretending to be me. That's a special kind of betrayal, Liv. That's performance art. It wasn't, you never meant to keep going. You never meant to call her. You never meant to tell her your real name. And yet, he walked to my window, the one I'd photographed, sunrise for sunset. She's great, isn't she? She's funny and sharp and she asks questions that actually matter. I know because you told me. In the messages you wrote for me, you were writing love letters to yourself and I was the envelope. Marcus, don't. He turned. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm asking you to understand what you took. The chance to be known. You had it twice. Once as me, once as yourself, and I haven't had it once. Do you get that? Do you actually understand? I understood. I understood that I'd stolen something irreplaceable, that the person Delia had fallen for was a composite, a fiction, a version of Marcus filtered through my own desires and my own voice and my own particular way of seeing the world. I understood that I'd wanted to be seen without risking being seen, and that I'd managed it at the cost of my best friend's dignity. I'll tell her everything, I said, the whole truth. You won't have to. I want you to stop deciding what I need without asking me. He picked up his keys, his phone, the physical objects that marked the boundary between us. I'm going to talk to her, as myself finally. Whatever she decides after that, whether she wants to meet the real person or write the whole thing off as too weird, that's between us. Not you. You don't get to manage this anymore. He left. I sat in the space he'd occupied, the air still warm from his anger, and I understood that I'd lost something too. Not Delia, who'd never been mine to lose, but Marcus, who'd been mine for 15 years and who might never trust me again. The next 3 days were silence. No texts, no calls, no updates. I went to work, came home, stared at my phone, rehearsed apologies that wouldn't come. On the 4th day, Delia texted, the number I'd given her, my real number, still saved in her phone. Can we talk? In person, neutral territory. We met at the museum. The actual museum, Marcus's museum, the one from the story I'd told as him and then as myself. She was waiting by the security desk, and I felt the full absurdity of our situation, the nested deceptions that had brought us here, the impossibility of starting fresh when we were already so layered with false starts. I talked to Marcus, she said without preamble, several times. He's a good person. The person you were pretending to be, that's actually him. You weren't wrong about that. I know, but you weren't right either. You made him better, faster, more like, she gestured at me, who you actually are. And I don't know if I would have responded to the real him, or if I did respond to the real him and you just got there first, or if the whole thing is so tangled that untangling it would destroy the shape of what I thought we were building. I know, I said again, helpless. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know that's not enough. It's not, she agreed, but it's also not the point anymore. The point is what happens now. Marcus and we're not dating. We talked, we tried, there's something there, but it's not what was there with you, and he's not interested in being second choice, and I'm not interested in pretending he could be first. So that's ended. Cleanly, I think, as cleanly as possible. I felt the weight of it. Another cost, another person hurt by my attempt to help. I didn't want to cost you that, either of you. I know, you wanted to cost yourself nothing. That's different. She started walking, and I followed, through the ancient civilization's wing, past security guards who might have been the one from my story, my actual story, the one that was finally true. Here's what I keep thinking about. That first voice memo. When I asked to hear him, laugh. You sent something edited, something constructed, and I absolutely knew something was wrong and I kept going anyway. I wanted the fiction. I wanted the person who could be that clever, that quick, that tuned in. So I'm not innocent here. I'm complicit in wanting something that wasn't quite real. You're real, I said. Everything I feel is real. That sounds like the kind of thing a liar would say. I know it does, but I don't know how else to show me, she said. Not tell. Show me, over time with actual consistency, what it looks like when you're not performing, when you're not being helpful, or being a good friend, or being whoever you think someone needs. Just be here. Be wrong. Be awkward. Be the person who makes mistakes and has to sit with them. That's the only version of you I'm interested in now. The one who can't edit. We walked through the whole museum. We didn't touch. We didn't make plans. When we finally separated at the entrance, she said, I'll be in touch, in a way that meant she might not be, and I understood that this was the consequence, the real one, not the dramatic confrontation, but the slow uncertainty of having to earn back something I'd taken for granted. Marcus didn't answer my texts for 2 weeks. When he finally did, it was professional. He needed help moving a couch. Was I available? He'd asked someone else first, but they were busy. I said yes. I showed up with coffee and donuts and no expectations. We moved the couch in silence. In his new apartment, the one he'd found without telling me, the one with better light and no memories of me helping him choose it, he said, she's not the reason I'm angry. I know. I'm angry because you didn't trust me to handle my own life. Because you saw me struggling and decided I needed saving, and you were so sure you were right that you never checked. That's the pattern. That's the thing that's been happening since college, since high school, since you decided we were best friends and started making decisions for both of us. I'll stop, I said. I'm stopping. I don't know how to be your friend without doing that, but I'll learn, or I'll be less present if that's what you need. I don't want to lose you, but I don't want to keep you by force. He looked at me for a long moment. The couch is facing the wrong wall, he said finally. I need to move it again. You going to help? Or you going to tell me I actually want it this way? I helped. We moved it 3 more times, arguing about light and traffic patterns and whether he actually entertained or just liked the idea of entertaining. And by the end we were both sweating and laughing, and the anger was still there, but it was specific now, bounded, something we could work with instead of around. Delia texted on the 5th week. Coffee, Saturday, no promises. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat with my hands shaking and didn't hide it when she came in. I told her about the couch, about Marcus, about the particular silence of my apartment without his calls. I told her things I hadn't planned to say, hadn't rehearsed, watched her listen without performing her own response. Marcus is dating someone, she said when I finished. A woman from his soccer league. Actual meeting, actual conversation, no ghostwriters. He told me when he ended things with me. He wanted me to know he was fine. He wanted you to know probably, but he couldn't say it yet. I'm glad, I said, and meant it, and felt the complexity of meaning it. The way happiness for him sat beside regret for what I'd cost us both. And you, she asked, are you fine? No, I said. I'm trying to be better, that's different. She smiled, the real one, the one I'd first seen in a photo and then constructed in imagination and was only now seeing in person, unmediated. Better works, she said. Better I can work with. We walked after coffee, no destination, the city unfolding around us with its ordinary miracles. Street musicians, dogs in windows, the particular gold of afternoon light on brick. She didn't take my hand, I didn't reach for hers. But we walked in step, and when she laughed at something I said, something unplanned and slightly stupid, I heard it. The sound she'd been waiting for, the one I'd finally learned to make. We walked until the light changed, until the gold turned copper and the street musicians packed their cases and the dogs disappeared from windows into the ordinary privacy of evening. She stopped at a corner where the crosswalk signal was broken, blinking walk and don't walk in the same confused rhythm, and she looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Assessment, maybe, or the careful neutrality of someone deciding whether to keep deciding. I need to know something, she said, and I need you to actually answer, not perform the answer you think I want. Okay, did you ever think about telling me, before I figured it out? Before you gave me your real number? Did you have a plan for that, or were you just hoping I'd never ask, never notice, never push for more than you could pretend? I thought about the nights I'd almost confessed, the messages drafted and deleted, the times I'd started to tell Marcus everything and found reasons to wait. I had plans, I said, dozens of them. I'd tell you when you met Marcus, when you realized on your own, when the whole thing collapsed under its own weight and I could be the one who'd tried to stop it. I had plans for every version except the one where I actually chose, where I just put down the phone and said my own name. Why that one? Why was that the hardest? Because it was real. The light kept blinking, walk, don't walk, walk, and I watched it instead of her. Everything else was theater. Even the guilt was theater, in a way. Me feeling bad about what I'd done, which made me the kind of person who felt bad, which was almost as good as being good, but choosing, actually choosing to lose you rather than keep you under false pretenses, that was just loss. No narrative. No redemption arc, just me, standing in whatever wreckage I'd made, hoping you'd still be able to see me in it. She was quiet long enough that I finally looked at her. She was smiling, but it was complicated, edged with something that wasn't quite sadness. You know what Marcus told me? When we were having our actual conversation, the one where we both admitted this wasn't going anywhere. He said you were the bravest person he knew and also the most terrified of being known. He said you'd been his best friend for 15 years and he still couldn't tell you when he was actually struggling because you'd take it over, make it yours to solve, and he'd rather keep it than lose it to your efficiency. I know, I said. I know that's what I do. I'm trying. I don't need you to try, she said. I need you to fail. I need to see what happens when you don't manage it, when you can't fix it, when you're just present with something broken and don't reach for the glue. The light was still broken. We crossed anyway, against the signal, and she took my hand for the first time, not a romantic gesture, something more practical, keeping us together in traffic, but I felt it like a brand, the warmth of her palm against mine, the particular pressure of her fingers interlaced. Her apartment was 3 blocks north, and she didn't invite me there, not yet, but she stopped at the stoop of a building that wasn't hers and said, I'm going to tell you something I haven't told anyone, not because I trust you exactly, because I don't want to be the only one who doesn't get to hide. Okay? I was married for 2 years in my late 20s to a woman she was a lot like you, actually, competent, generous, always 3 steps ahead of whatever crisis was coming, which meant she was always managing my reactions before I could have them. I loved her. I also stopped knowing what I actually felt because she'd already felt it for me, already processed it, already moved us to the next stage. When I left, she was blindsided. She'd done everything right. She couldn't understand what was wrong. I thought of Marcus, his face in my kitchen, his trust that I'd handle what he couldn't. What was wrong? Nothing, everything, I don't know. She let go of my hand, found her keys without looking at them. I spent 3 years after that being very careful about who I let close, very careful about who I let be helpful. And then you weren't even trying to be my friend, you were trying to be someone else entirely, and I responded to that. I responded to the fiction because the fiction couldn't manage me. And now here you are, real and unscripted, and still trying to manage how I feel about the whole thing, and I don't know if that's progress or just a more sophisticated trap. It's not a trap, I said. I'm not doing that now. I'm trying not to. Show me, she said again, the same words as before, but different now, weighted with what she'd told me. Show me by not showing me. Go home. Don't text me tonight. Don't plan what you'll say tomorrow. Just be somewhere else, doing something else, being someone to someone else, and let me wonder what you're thinking instead of knowing because you've already performed it. She went inside. I stood on the street, the broken light still blinking behind me, and I understood that this was the test, the real one, not the dramatic confession or the honest conversation, but the ordinary discipline of not reaching, not managing, not making myself necessary. I went home. I didn't text. I called my sister, who I hadn't spoken to in weeks because I'd been so absorbed in the performance of Marcus's dating life, and I listened to her complain about her job without offering solutions, without reframing her problems into opportunities, just listened and said, "That sounds hard," when it sounded hard, and "I'm sorry" when she described the meeting that had gone wrong. She noticed. She said, "Who are you and what have you done with my sister?" And I laughed and said, "I'm trying something," and didn't explain what, didn't make her understand, just let the statement sit there between us, incomplete. I went to sleep without checking my phone. In the morning there was a message from Delia. "Still here, still wondering, that's new." I didn't reply immediately. I made coffee. I went for a run, the first in months, my lungs burning and my legs uncertain, and I didn't plan what I'd say when I finally did text her back. I just ran and breathed and was present in my body in a way that felt borrowed from someone else's life, someone who didn't need to be useful to exist. When I finally wrote, it was afternoon, and I said only, "I was running. I didn't think about you the whole time. I thought about my knees, which are older than I pretend. I thought about the dog that tried to chase me. I thought about whether I should buy new shoes. It was boring. It was mine." She replied, "I don't know what to do with that." "Neither do I wrote back. "But I'm not going to figure it out for both of us," she called. I was in the grocery store debating between 2 kinds of yogurt I didn't actually care about, and I answered without planning to, without preparing, and she said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Cereal aisle, technically, though I'm not buying cereal," and she laughed. The real laugh, the one I'd first heard in a voice memo and then constructed and was now hearing in response to actual stupidity, unscripted, unearned. "Come over," she said. "Not for anything. Just be in my space without needing to perform being in my space. See if you can do it." I went. I brought the yogurt, both kinds, because I couldn't decide and didn't want to perform decisiveness. She opened the door in sweatpants, no makeup, her hair in a configuration that suggested she'd been sleeping or crying or both, and she didn't apologize for how she looked, didn't give me an opening to be reassuring, just let me see her. Her apartment was small, lived in, books stacked in ways that suggested function over display, a couch with the permanent impression of someone who read there often. I sat where she indicated, not the good chair, not the position of honor, just a corner of the couch where I could see the window and the light coming through it, late afternoon, almost evening. "Marcus called me," she said, settling across from me, not touching, not yet, "this morning. He wanted to know if I was going to give you another chance. He said he was asking as your friend, not as whatever he was to me, which was never enough to have a name for. He said you'd do the same for him, advocate for him, and he couldn't be less generous just because he was hurt." "What did you tell him?" "That you weren't getting another chance. That you were getting something else entirely, something you hadn't earned yet and might not earn, and that he needed to stop protecting you from the consequences of your own choices, even if those consequences were losing his friendship." She pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them, a posture that was younger than she usually seemed, more vulnerable. "He didn't like that. He said I didn't understand how friendship worked. I said he didn't understand how honesty worked." We hung up angry. I felt the weight of it, Another thread pulled, another connection strained by my attempts to weave everything together. I'll talk to him. Don't. Sharp, immediate. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You hear problem, you reach for solution. Marcus and I had a conflict. It's ours. You don't get to manage it, repair it, make it meaningful. You just get to know it happened and keep being whatever you're being with me, which is, she searched for words. I don't actually know what this is. That's the point. I don't know what you want, what you're offering, what you expect. You've never let me not know before. I sat with that. The light changed, the window going amber, then rose, then the particular blue of evening that has no name. I didn't fill the silence. I didn't offer narrative, context, the shape of what this moment could mean. I just breathed and waited and let her see me waiting without knowing what I was waiting for. I started and stopped, started again. I want to be someone you can disagree with, someone you can be disappointed by, someone whose problems you don't have to solve because they're not yours and you didn't cause them and you're not responsible for making them better. The words came slowly, each one tested before I released it. I want to be in your life without being necessary to it. I don't know if I know how. I don't know if anyone's ever let me try. She uncurled, let her feet touch the floor, leaned forward until I could smell her shampoo, something herbal, unfamiliar. My ex-wife, she said, used to say that love was a project, something you built together, managed together, improved. I think she really believed that. I think she was confused when I said I wanted to be loved for what I was, not what I could become with sufficient attention. She was close enough now that I could see the small scar above her eyebrow, the place where her hairline wasn't quite symmetrical. You're a project person, Liv. You see potential and you want to realize it. I need to know if you can see what's already there and want that instead. I see you, I said. I saw you in a photo on a rocky coast and I wanted to know the joke. I saw you in texts that were actually mine and I wanted to keep making you laugh. I see you now, tired and uncertain and possibly about to send me home, and I still want to be here. Not to fix it, just to be here. She kissed me. It wasn't romantic, not exactly. Not the way I'd imagined in the early days of the fiction, when I'd allowed myself to imagine, more desperate, more necessary, her mouth finding mine like she was answering a question she hadn't decided to ask. I tasted coffee, toothpaste, the particular salt of someone who's been crying or almost crying. I didn't perform response. I just responded, my hand finding her shoulder, her hair, the back of her neck where the tension lived, and I didn't think about what this meant or where it led or how to make it good for her. I just kissed her and let her kiss me, and when we finally separated we were both breathing hard and neither of us had anything prepared to say. That's not forgiveness, she said. That's not even trust. That's just want. Which is dangerous because want doesn't care about whether things are good ideas. I know. I didn't let go of her. I didn't arrange my face into responsibility, into the careful reading of her needs. I want anyway. I think that's what you were asking for. Someone who wants without managing the wanting. She laughed, shaky, real. I was asking for that. I'm not sure I'm ready for it, but she stood, pulled me up with her, kept my hand in hers. We can find out together. Which means you don't get to find out for both of us and report back. We ordered food we didn't plan, watched something on her laptop she didn't explain, and I didn't ask what it was or why she liked it or what it meant about her. I just watched and laughed when she laughed. And when she fell asleep against my shoulder, I didn't move her, didn't optimize her comfort, just stayed and breathed, and was present in a way that felt like learning a new language by immersion, terrifying and slow and occasionally miraculous. In the morning she made coffee without asking how I took it, and I drank it however she made it, and when it was too strong I said so without apologizing, without making it into a preference she should have anticipated. She raised an eyebrow. Finally, an actual opinion, unfiltered. She sat across from me, the same position as the night before, but different now. Morning light making her ordinary and extraordinary in the same glance. Marcus is coming over later. I invited him. I thought, we should all be in the same room, at least once, and see if there's anything to salvage or if this is just damage that doesn't get repaired. I felt the old instinct rise, the urge to manage, to prepare her for what he might say, to prepare him for what she needed, to be the bridge, the translator, the one who made it work. I pushed it down. Okay. Just okay? I want to fix it, I said. I want to say the right thing, make it okay, prove I'm worth keeping. I'm not going to. I'm just going to be there, and be whatever I am, and let you both decide what that means. She reached across the table, touched my hand briefly, withdrew. That's the first time you've said something like that without sounding like you're performing humility. It actually sounds hard. It is hard. Good, she smiled, complicated, not entirely kind. It should be. Marcus arrived at noon. I heard his footsteps in the hall, the particular rhythm of his stride, and I felt the full weight of 15 years, all the times I'd known what he needed before he did, all the times I'd been right and wrong and never actually asked. The door opened. He saw me, saw her, saw us arranged in her small living room like a tableau of something that hadn't decided what it was. Well, he said, this is weird. Sit down, Delia said. We're being honest, it's uncomfortable. He sat. He looked at me, and I saw the anger still there, banked but present, and something else. Curiosity, maybe, or the particular pain of watching someone you thought you knew become someone else entirely. I don't know how to start, I said. Then don't, he said. Let someone else start. That's the thing you're learning, right? Not always being first? Delia laughed, surprised. She's mentioned that? She's mentioned everything, in texts, in calls, in the whole performance of being me. But he said it without the edge I'd expected, more tired than bitter. I came because I need to understand. Not what happened, that's clear enough, but why I let it happen, why I wanted to believe someone could be that interested in me without me having to do the work, why I was grateful to be replaced. Marcus, don't. He held up a hand. I'm not asking for comfort. I'm asking. He looked at Delia, then back at me. I'm asking if there's a version of this where I don't lose everything, where I get to keep some part of what I thought I had, even knowing it was never what I thought. Delia was quiet. I was quiet. The question hung between us, not mine to answer, not hers to solve for him. I'd like to be friends, she said finally. Actual friends, not whatever that was. I'd like to know you without the fiction between us. But that's not a gift I can give you to make this easier. That's something you'd have to want for itself, and work for, and I don't know if you do or you will. Marcus looked at me. And you? I don't know, I said. I don't know what we are now, what we can be. I know I took something from you that wasn't mine, and I know I can't give it back, and I know I've been your friend in ways that were more about me than about you. I want to learn different. I don't know if you'll let me try. He stood. Walked to the window, the same one where the light had changed for me the night before, and he stood there for a long moment, his back to us, his shoulders tight with something he wasn't sharing. I met someone, he said to the glass. The soccer thing, she doesn't need me to be anything. She just likes who I am, which is confusing, because I don't think I'm very likable, but she seems sure. He turned. I want to see where that goes. I want to not need you to make it happen, to script it, to tell me what she's thinking. And he stopped, started again. I want you to know that I'm angry, and that I'm hurt, and that I don't know when that stops, or if it stops, or if we just carry it. I want you to know that and not fix it. Can you do that? I thought of all the things I could say, the promises I could make, the framework I could offer, the narrative of healing and growth and eventual restoration. I thought of how easy it would be, how natural, how much I wanted to be good at this. I can try, I said. I can be here, knowing you're angry and not make it better. I can want to make it better and not do it. I can fail at that and try again. That's not very reassuring. It's not meant to be, it's just true. He laughed, sudden, surprised. God, that's annoying. That's actually worse than when you were managing everything. At least then I knew what to expect. Delia stood, went to him, touched his arm in a gesture that was tentative, new. Not the easy intimacy of their almost dating, but something more earned. We could try, she said, all of us. Being in each other's lives without being in charge of each other's lives. It might not work. It might be too weird, too much, too soon. But we could try. Marcus looked at her hand on his arm, then at me, then back. One condition, he said. You never write my dating profile again. Even if I ask, even if I'm desperate, even if it would obviously be better if you did. Never, I said. I promise, no matter how bad it is. That's the first promise you've made that sounds like you mean it, he said. The first one that sounds like it costs you something. It does, I said. It costs me the easy way, the way where I'm needed. Good. He stepped back from the window, from Delia's touch, from the position that would have made this a scene with clear resolution. I'm going to go now. I'm going to see this person, the soccer person, and I'm not going to tell you how it goes until I'm ready, if I'm ever ready. And you're going to let me. Yes, I said. And you're going to mess this up, he said to Delia, because she's going to mess it up, because that's what she does when she's scared, and you're going to have to decide if you want to keep going anyway, knowing that. I know, Delia said. I'm deciding. I'll keep deciding. That's the deal. He left. The door closed behind him with a sound that was final and not final, the sound of something that would keep being worked on, that didn't have an ending yet. I sat back down, my legs suddenly unreliable, and Delia sat across from me, the same position, the same light. Everything changed. That's not a happy ending, she said. No, that's not even an ending. No, good. She reached for my hand, held it, didn't let go. I don't want endings. I want, she searched for words, the same way I'd watched her search before. The performance of thinking that was actually thinking. I want the part where we're still figuring it out, where we don't know if this works, if we work, if any of the damage can be built around instead of repaired. I want to be in that part with you, not watching you perform, being in it. Okay, I said, I'm here. I'm not performing. I'm terrified and I don't know what happens next, and I'm not going to pretend that's romantic or meaningful or anything other than what it is. She smiled, the full smile, the one from the photo, the one I'd spent weeks trying to earn and was now receiving for free, for nothing, for the simple fact of being present and afraid and honest about both. That's enough, she said. For now, that's enough. We sat there as the light changed again, as the afternoon became evening, as the ordinary miracle of another day ending unfolded around us without my direction, without my management, just happening and us in it, and the uncertain future waiting to be discovered rather than designed. The knock came at 7, sharp and insistent, 3 raps that suggested someone who had been waiting and had run out of patience. Delia looked at me questioning and I shook my head. I wasn't expecting anyone, hadn't told anyone where I was, had been careful about that in ways that now felt like preparation for something I hadn't anticipated. She opened the door to her sister, the one from the wedding photo, the one whose sobriety had preserved the evidence of Delia's existence. They had the same cheekbones, the same particular way of holding tension in their jaw, but where Delia's expression was always layered, her sister's was immediate, readable, currently furious. You didn't tell me, she said, pushing past Delia without waiting for invitation. You let me hear it from Marcus, who I ran into at the grocery store, who told me my sister was dating a catfish and that the catfish was actually her best friend's ghostwriter, and I stood there in the organic produce section trying to figure out if this was a joke or a breakdown or some kind of performance art I wasn't getting. Clara, don't. She saw me, stopped, performed a visible recalibration. You're the, she made air quotes, real her. The one I'd been texting with for 3 weeks, thinking I was getting to know my sister's new person. I stood, automatic, the old instinct to manage, to explain, to make this comprehensible before it could damage anything. Delia's hand found my arm, pressure enough to stop me. Clara, this is Liv. Liv, my sister Clara, who apparently Marcus decided to brief on our situation. Someone had to, Clara said, since you weren't going to. Since you've been, she pulled out her phone, scrolled, read, figuring things out, which apparently means hiding in your apartment with the person who lied to you, who lied to her best friend, who lied to me by extension because I was excited for you, I was invested, I was making plans for holidays, and now I find out the whole thing was… She stopped, breathed. The same visible effort at control I'd watched in Delia. Was what? What was it? It was a mistake, I said. A series of mistakes. You're not what? Sorry? Different now? The person I was actually liking in those messages, the one who asked about Mom's treatment and remembered the name of Clara's dog and seemed to actually care about the details, was that you, or was that performance? Because I can't tell, and that's the problem. That's the whole problem. I thought I was getting to know someone, and instead I was getting to know someone pretending to be someone else, and I don't have the energy for that many layers of not real. Delia stepped between us, not protective exactly, but present, blocking the direct line of Clara's anger. You don't get to be this angry, she said, quiet, dangerous. This is my life, my mess, my decision about who I want in it and how and on what terms. You don't get to storm in and demand it make sense to you. I get to be angry that you didn't trust me enough to tell me yourself. That I had to find out from Marcus, who was clearly furious, who was clearly hurt, who stood there with his organic apples and his controlled voice and told me my sister was in trouble and he couldn't stop her because he wasn't sure he had the right anymore. Clara's voice broke, the fury giving way to something more vulnerable. I thought you were smarter than this. I thought after Rachel, after the whole… She stopped, glanced at me, continued anyway. After the whole thing with someone who managed you into not knowing yourself, I thought you'd recognize the pattern. Someone who needs to be needed. Someone who makes themselves essential before you can decide if you want them. The silence that followed was complete, the 3 of us suspended in the weight of what Clara had named, the pattern I'd repeated without recognizing, the specific shape of my damage that I thought was hidden. I recognized it, Delia said finally. I do recognize it. That's why I'm here, why we're doing this differently, why… She looked at me, something complicated passing between us, why I'm asking her to not be what she defaults to, which is hard for her, which is the point. And if she can't? Clara asked. If this is just who she is, if the performance is the person, if the managing and the fixing and the making herself necessary is just her, then I'll know, Delia said. I'll know because I'll have seen her try not to be and fail, and I'll decide what that means. Not you, not Marcus, me. Clara looked between us, the calculation visible, the weighing of whether to push further or accept the boundary being drawn. Mom wants to meet her, she said finally. Whatever she is to you now, whatever you're calling it. Mom heard me on the phone with Marcus and she knows something's happening and she wants to meet the person. She's making her special dinner, the one she makes for… Another glance at me for significant things. She scheduled it for Sunday. She didn't ask if you were ready, she decided. Delia's hand tightened on my arm. I didn't tell her about any of this. I haven't told anyone. Marcus did, or his version of it, which Mom heard as Delia's in a complicated situation and the person she's involved with has some things to work out. Clara's smile was bitter, familial. You know how Mom is. Complicated situations are her specialty. She collects them. She wants to see if she can solve this one. I don't want her to solve it, Delia said. I don't want anyone to solve it. Then tell her yourself, Sunday, 6 o'clock. Bring, she looked at me, performed the assessment I'd seen in Delia's first glance, the weighing of threat and possibility. Bring her, or don't. But don't pretend this isn't happening. Don't hide in your apartment hoping everyone will forget to be worried about you. She left. The door closed with less force than it had opened, the anger spent, something else taking its place. Delia didn't move, her hand still on my arm, her eyes on the space where her sister had been. Rachel was my ex, she said, to the air, to me, to whoever was listening, the one I mentioned. The project person. She's never said it that clearly before, the pattern. She saw it before I did, with Rachel, and I didn't listen, and she finally turned to look at me. She's not wrong about the pattern, about what you look like from outside. I know, I said. I heard it, I'm sitting with it. Are you? She moved away, finally, her hand leaving my arm, the distance physical now as well as emotional, because I can feel you reaching for how to fix this. How to make Clara like you. How to manage the Sunday dinner. How to turn this into something you can perform your way through. I can feel you doing it, and I need you to actually not. I need you to let my sister not like you. Let my mother be worried. Let this be uncomfortable and unresolved and possibly damaging to whatever we're trying to build, and not make it better. I felt the reach, the instinctive calculation of strategy, the part of me that was already drafting responses, preparing charm, planning how to be exactly enough but not too much. I felt it, and I named it silently to myself. The thing you do. I'm afraid, I said, of Sunday, of your mother, of being seen by people who already know I'm not what I pretended to be. I'm afraid, and I don't know what to do with fear except manage it, plan for it, turn it into something I can control. Then do nothing, Delia said. Feel it. Let it be fear, just fear, not transformed into anything else. Can you do that? I don't know. Try. She didn't offer comfort. She didn't reassure me that it would be okay, that we'd figure it out together, that her mother would love me, or her sister would come around, or any of the things I would have said in her position. The things I was reaching for to say now. She just looked at me, waiting, and I understood that this was the deeper test. The one that wouldn't end with a kiss or a declaration or any of the moments I'd imagined. Sunday arrived without my preparation. I didn't research her mother, didn't ask Delia for strategic guidance, didn't plan what to wear beyond clean and appropriate. I showed up at Delia's apartment at 5:30 and she looked at me, simple dress, minimal makeup, nothing that suggested effort or performance, and nodded, once acknowledgement of what I was attempting. Her mother's house was small, deliberate, the kind of space that had been curated over decades rather than decorated. There were photographs everywhere, actual photographs in frames, Delia at various ages, Clara, a man I assumed was the father until I saw the dates and realized he was gone, had been gone, was present in his absence. Delia, her mother called from the kitchen. Bring her in, don't make her stand in the hallway like a stranger. We went in. The kitchen was warm, occupied, Clara already there with wine she wasn't drinking, her eyes finding me immediately, assessing whether I'd changed, whether the attempt at simplicity was itself a performance. I couldn't tell if she saw through it or was waiting to be convinced. Mom, Delia said, this is Liv, my mother, Elena. Elena turned from the stove and I saw immediately where Delia had learned her opacity, her layered expression. Elena's face was welcoming and evaluating simultaneously, the warmth genuine and the judgment equally so. You're the one who pretended to be someone else, she said without preamble. To get close to my daughter, which is either romantic or pathological, and I'm not sure which yet. Mom, I'm asking her, Delia. I want to know how she answers. Elena stirred something that smelled of garlic and memory, not looking at me now, giving me the space to respond without her face influencing mine. Both, I said. It was both. It started as, Marcus asked for help, and I was good at helping, and then I was good at being him, and then I wanted to keep being him because being him meant you. I stopped, rephrased, the old instinct to shape the narrative giving way to something more raw, meant I could be interesting without being myself, which is pathological. But then I wanted to be myself with her, and I didn't know how, and the way I finally did it was clumsy and damaging, and I'm still learning what it costs. Elena tasted her sauce, added something, tasted again. Clara says you're trying to be different, that Delia's making you try. Which worries me, because my daughter spent years with someone who needed her to be different, and I'm not eager to watch her do it again. I'm not asking her to be different, I said. I'm trying to, I stopped. The words failing, the performance and the truth indistinguishable in my own mouth. You're trying to not ask, Delia said from beside me, not touching, present. Which is different, which is what we're doing. Alina turned, finally, full attention, the evaluation complete. Sit, she said. Eat. We'll see what happens when you're not performing for an audience. We sat. The food was elaborate, deliberate, the kind of meal that was itself a statement. About family, about continuity, about the labor of love made visible. I didn't compliment it beyond genuine appreciation, didn't offer to help beyond what was accepted, didn't fill silences with observation or question. Clara watched me. Elena watched me. Delia watched herself, her own patterns, the way she reached for wine and stopped, the way she checked her phone and put it down, the small negotiations of being present without escaping. Your mother, Elena said to me mid-meal. What does she think of all this? I haven't told her, I said. Not the details. She knows I searched for the word involved, with someone. She doesn't know how it started. Why not? Because I'm ashamed, because I don't want her to see me this way, because the truth unexpected, because she's like you. She sees through things, and I don't want to be seen through. Elena nodded, not sympathetic, acknowledging. And your father? Gone. Not dead, just gone. Since I was 12. I learned to be helpful because helpful was necessary, and I never stopped. The silence that followed was different from before, weighted with what I'd offered, the unplanned exposure. Delia's hand found mine under the table, brief return to her own space. Delia's father, Elena said, was not helpful. He was present, which is different, and when he left I had to learn what I'd missed learning. How to do things alone, how to not need someone to need me. She looked at her daughter, something passing between them, history and forgiveness and the ongoing negotiation of family. I'm not sure helpful is better than present, I'm not sure it's worse, but I'm sure it's not the same thing. We finished eating. Clara didn't soften, but she stopped performing her suspicion, her questions becoming actual curiosity rather than interrogation. Elena told stories, deliberate offerings. Delia at 7 and 11 and 16, the narrative of a person becoming herself, and I listened without calculating how to respond, how to be included, how to make myself necessary to the telling. After, in the small garden behind the house, Delia found me standing in the dark, the city distant enough that stars were visible, the ordinary miracle of light traveling through space to reach us. She likes you, Delia said, more than Clara, more than she expected. She doesn't like me. She's considering whether to worry about you. That's different. Yes. Delia stood beside me, not touching, the space between us charged with possibility. She's considering it. She's not decided. That's what you gave her, uncertainty, instead of performance. It's not comfortable. It's not safe. But it's real. I want to be real, I said. I don't know if I know how. I keep reaching for the shape of it, the way it should look, and I have to keep stopping myself. I know. She turned to face me, and I saw the cost of it on her face, the exhaustion of vigilance, of watching me watch myself, of being the mirror I kept checking. I don't know if I can keep being this for you. The person who notices, who stops you, who demands the real thing. I don't know if that's sustainable, or fair, or what I actually want. I felt the ground shift, the possibility of loss that wasn't dramatic, wasn't final, just the slow recognition that wanting to change wasn't the same as changing, that effort was an outcome, that she might decide the cost was too high. I know, I said. I know you can't be my conscience. I know I'm asking you to trust something I haven't proven yet, and that trust is, I stopped. Found the words. It's not something you owe me. It's not something I can perform my way into. It's something you give, or don't, and I have to be able to survive either way. Can you? She asked. Survive it? If I said this was too much, if I said I needed someone who didn't require this much monitoring, this much, she gestured between us, this much work just to exist in a room without managing everyone in it? I thought of Marcus, his anger and his generosity, the way he'd named my pattern and still offered possibility. I thought of Clara's suspicion, Elena's evaluation, the family I'd entered without preparation and couldn't control. I thought of my own apartment, empty, the life I'd built around being necessary to others, and whether there was anything there if that necessity was removed. I don't know, I said. I think I'd have to learn. I think that's the answer you need, the true one, not the performance of growth or the promise of change. I don't know. I'm trying to find out. She kissed me, in her mother's garden, under actual stars, with her sister probably watching from the window and her mother definitely pretending not to. She kissed me, and it was different from before, not desperate or necessary or the answer to a question, just present, real, the choice to continue without knowing the outcome. That's enough, she said, when we separated, the same words as before, but heavier now, more costly. For now, that's enough.